PlayStation 2 is the best-selling game console of all time, and the console I grew up with. I still use the same fat PS2 I had as a kid, and I love buying new games for this boy. Shh. On my last trip to my local retro game store, I snagged a copy of Area 51 from 2005. A big nostalgia game from my childhood, and one that I have kind of forgotten about. This got me in the mood to check out some more old shooters for the PS2, and well nerds, here we are. Welcome to Casual Perspective, Hayden here, and today, we're going to be taking a look at the PS2's best shooters. Now, when I say the PS2's best shooters, what I really mean are some of the PS2's best shooters. I wanted to pick lesser known titles and stay away from the big guys like Call of Duty or Medal of Honor. I narrowed my selection down to 5 games, and really these were just the ones I wanted to play the most and wanted in my collection. There are no doubt other shooters for the PS2 that could have slotted right into this video. Oh, there's a few of them now. All of these games were played on original hardware with a good old PS2 controller. I wanted that authentic and nostalgic experience, and boy did I get it. 10 frames a second! Of my picks, only one of them, Killzone, is a PS2 exclusive, so if you were an Xbox kid, stick around. Most of these games are over 20 years old, but just in case, spoiler alert, pussy. Let's get into it. Here's my TLDR on Darkwatch. You're a Wild West outlaw that gets turned into a vampire, complete with vampire powers and a thirst for blood. You join an evil extermination organization called the Darkwatch and eradicate evil across the West and fuck bitches. Nah, like, for real.
Whoa! Whoa!
Pretty cool concept and makes for one hell of a game. Darkwatch really nails the gothic western aesthetic with the environments and level design. Everything is pretty creepy, desolate, and, well, dark. Hanging bodies, rotting corpses, churches, creepy old trees, and full moons. This vibe carries right over into the enemies. There's some really cool ones. The oozers are probably my favorite. Acid-spitting, machete-wielding, thick motherfuckers. They pop like a butt pimple when you kill them. Oh! Banditos trot around slowly wielding a shotgun with an axe bayonet and the sorting hat from Harry Potter. Darkwatch has an awesome gore system, and I feel the Banditos showcase it best. At close range with a shotgun, you can literally blow chunks off of these guys, exposing their bones and insides. Wow, that's cool! Banshees are easily the sexiest enemy because, yeah, that's important, but also one of the most annoying. They fly around screaming at you like an overbearing girlfriend and sometimes get up close to smack you around. They also showcase the gore system well, screaming when you lob off one of their arms, and being vulnerable to decapitation. So the enemies are cool, but guess what? The shit you're killing them with? Perhaps even cooler. All the first-person shooter mainstays are here: pistols, rifle, shotguns, sniper, and throwable explosives. But we also have a crossbow that shoots exploding bolts. Dual Gatling gun turrets, that gets my PNAR hard, and a Wild West rocket launcher that doubles as a warhammer.
Oh, the old Wild West bazooki.
That's so cool!
Yeah, and basically all the weapons also double as melee weapons with blades and knives and shit attached, which is good because you're gonna need them. There's also some horseback sections and a vehicle section where you get to drive a Wild West death wagon, complete with more Gatling guns. Here at Casual Perspective, we love Gatling guns. So that's all fine and dandy, but being a vampire has its perks as well, and those perks include jumping high as fuck, recharging shields, and a whole host of vampire powers. You unlock vampire powers as you play, and the powers you unlock are determined by if you're a good, well-behaved vampire, helping those in need, or if you're a mean, nasty vampire killing innocent people. Which leads me right into the game's morality system. These choices throughout the game do determine which powers you unlock, but towards the end, they actually dictate how the story plays out with different cutscenes and endings depending on your choices. I feel like that's a pretty unique thing for a first-person shooter, especially one this old. This even dictates the ending boss fight, with there being different fights depending on if you choose good or evil. Quick note on these boss fights. If you pick the path of evil and side with Tala, arguably the hotter one and the one who isn't a ghost, you will have to fight Ghost Cassidy, and motherfucker, this fight sucks all kinds of ass. It's like 90% fine, but she has one attack that basically drains your entire shield and half of your health bar. It's borderline impossible to dodge. This kept killing me right at the end of the fight.
That might kill me. That might kill me. Oh my god. There we go again. That's insane. No, 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 no. Come on, come on, come on. No, 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 no. Unfucking real.
I think I had to retry this like 5 or 6 times, and every time I had to watch these poor virgins get turned into tomato soup. I did play on Shootist, which is the 3rd highest difficulty, so that probably didn't help my case. I went back in and played the good ending, which results in a boss fight against Tala, which was worlds easier. I think the good ending also makes more sense from a story perspective, so if it's your first playthrough, I'd recommend being a good vampire. Darkwatch rules. I would love a remaster, or if they would just release a PC port on Steam so I can actually play it with a stable frame rate. A vampire can dream. Okay, alien time, bitches. The story for Area 51 is basically a descent into progressively crazier shit, starting off as part of a hazmat team sent to the Area 51 facility to clean up a virus outbreak. You crawl deeper down the rabbit hole by no choice of your own, by the way, until by the end of the game you're just kicking it with the Greys, watching them dissect people, walking around on Halo-style light bridges, and dorking around with UFOs. For a game with a gray alien on the cover, Area 51 certainly delivers the goods.
That's fucking crazy.
Speaking of aliens, Marilyn Manson is also here for some reason, voicing this sentient alien diarrhea dude named Edgar. He talks to you throughout the game through the bodies of dead dudes.
It's fine, Dr. Cray. Only he can prevent your descent into madness.
Guy has a voice that could turn even the most hetero penis rock hard.
I like men.
But damn is his voice acting bad. It's like he's just reading this shit as himself.
Your death would be a waste of my time. And a tragedy for your kind.
Hey, so you know what's cooler than Marilyn Manson's voice acting? How about dual-wielding double-barrel shotguns? So badass. Doom Guy ain't even doing that shit. You can also dual-wield assault rifles. Look at this fucking screen shake. What do you think of that, Butters?
Neato.
Yeah, there's some pretty sick weapons in Area 51. You also have a pistol, a sniper, and some alien guns. Nothing really topped the dual assault rifles and shotties for me, but this last alien gun is basically this game's BFG, and does some really cool electricity looking shit. So that's nice. When you find a weapon in the game, you never drop it, so by the end, your ass is just lugging around like 6 different guns. On one hand, this is really cool, but on another, it sucks tons of dick because there's no weapon wheel. You have to swap through the whole list to get what you want. As you can imagine, this is rather inconvenient in the heat of battle. So yeah, 6 different guns and 2 different grenades. Not a lot of variety, and unfortunately, that lack of variety carries right over into the enemies.
Shucks.
Okay, so technically there's 9 different enemy types in the game, I think. I'm including some that aren't even in the game's manual, but in practice, there are basically only 3. You have the mutated humans in the beginning of the game, the Illuminati hybrid soldiers, and then just miscellaneous shit. Dirty bubbles, enemy spawning greys, bugs, and actual mutants. These are all in their own category because they show up maybe once or twice in the whole game. These damn alien human hybrid Illuminati soldiers are what you'll be fighting for like 70% of the time. The mutated humans and miscellaneous shit making up the other 30%. I was so sick of these dudes by the end of the game, they way overstay their welcome.
Why are you guys here? Really? We couldn't have had something different.
I would have loved to fight more actual aliens or weird non-human enemies, but nah, gun-wielding humanoid soldiers it is. I think the first couple hours fighting the mutated humans were better. Also worth mentioning, you do get mutated yourself early on in the story, and this grants you a new set of abilities. It's only like 2 new attacks, but time slows down, you take less damage, and you can backhand enemies for insta-kills, which is the real value. I kinda slept on the mutant powers. The reduction in damage makes it worth it to pop into this form, shoot out your juices, and then go back to human. By the end of the game, I was using it much more. It's okay, but not even in the same league as the dual shotguns. So yeah, summing up Area 51, its cool shit is really fucking cool, and its meh shit is painfully meh. But it's a short campaign, so you're only sacrificing 5 or so hours, and it's a fun 5 hours, especially if aliens and conspiracy theories are your thing. So get out there and don't get probed. Also, the confirmed fake moon landing bit had me giddy. The surprise of this little section made the whole game worth it for me. Funny stuff.
I didn't even build the whole thing. It's just wood planks back here.
Repeat. Apollo 15. Houston, standing by.
Okay, time for the only game in the video that was actually a PS2 exclusive on launch. The infamous Halo killer. This is Killzone. Now, was Killzone actually a Halo killer?
Absolutely fucking not.
No, in fact, Killzone would do well as Halo's little butt boy. Killzone is in its own lane though, and deserves some praise. The biggest thing to nut on is this game's design and visuals. Considering the hardware this was built for, Killzone pulls off some really nice visuals. The whole thing has that gritty film grain dystopian war feel, and it's executed quite well. The story isn't lazy, the Hellgast character designs are iconic, and the weapons are cool as shit and look great for the time. Seriously, look at these. It's basically like a futuristic war, but with a World War II aesthetic. That rules. I hesitate to say the game feels realistic, but right away I noticed the movement felt a bit slower and more grounded than how a shooter usually feels. Your movements are almost sluggish, and that adds to the gritty feel of the game. There's also an animation for like everything from climbing over walls or up a ladder. There's actually melee and assassination animations.
Quiet.
Open fire! It's them!
Sick. There's actually assassinations. Sick.
And there's fucking sprint. This stuff is whatever by modern standards, but being a 20-year-old game, stuff like this was not commonplace. This more grounded feel of the game with the slow movement and animations doesn't necessarily help with the gameplay or make the game more fun, but it solidifies that vibe that Killzone is going for. On top of that, the gunplay here is solid as well, but in a strange way. If I had to describe it, it's almost like the weapons are paintball guns. They are painfully inaccurate, and the bullets move slow enough that you can track them and where they're hitting. This all sounds like a recipe for terrible gunplay, but there's actually something satisfying about it. There aren't ever more than like 10 enemies in a fight, and the enemy AI is pretty competent, so each encounter feels sort of tactical, I guess. I don't know, I liked it and I found it fun. For the most part. You're fucking me! The last big selling point for Killzone is the multiple character options and how your character choice actually affects gameplay. Each character facilitates a different playstyle, from going in guns a-blazing and fighting enemies head-on with Rico, or taking a more careful approach and taking out enemies from a distance with Luger. The character you pick actually changes how a level plays out and what your role will be in the level.
Haka, you can proceed past these mines. If you open the sluice gate, we can go through this sewage pipe.
Some levels will literally have different routes and encounters depending on your character choice. That's pretty sick. Okay, now it's time for some not so great things with Killzone. The stuff that had me buying hemorrhoid cream in bulk and shoving remotes up my ass. First off, the game is just too long for its own good. My run on normal took about 8.5 hours, which isn't bad at all, but it leads me right into another problem. There is zero variety in the gameplay here. Every single mission is boots on the ground, fighting the same variation of enemies, occasionally hopping in a gun turret or maybe killing a vehicle. The different characters help with the variety, but it's all just different versions of the same shit. That's when the game's length became an issue. By roughly hour 3, you'll have all the characters unlocked, and at that point, you've basically seen everything the game has to offer. It's such a shame because those first few hours were awesome and I was genuinely enjoying it until the campaign way overstayed its welcome. The last 2 hours were painful to get through.
Oh, god damn. This has got to be the last level.
The cherry on top of all of this is the game's performance. As I mentioned in the beginning, all these games were played on original hardware, and Killzone's performance was the worst by far.
Literally 5 frames a second. Holy shit. Oh my god.
We're talking frame rates dropping down into the teens. The teens.
Dude, the frame rate. Look at this. Oh my god.
The game does look really nice at times, but that comes at a cost. It's not lost on me that I'm definitely spoiled by modern, high refresh rate gaming, but this is not even playable in some sections. I longed for the moments I could at least have a stable 30 frames per second. There's a PS3 re-release of the Killzone trilogy with an HD remaster of this game, and for the love of pussy, if you're gonna play this, either play that version or emulate it. Do not play this on the PS2 unless you're the kind of person that doesn't wipe good on purpose to enjoy all day itchy butthole. The game's design, vibe, and multiple characters is really cool, but this is probably the weakest game on the list. Guess Halo lives to see another day.
We need someone to get over there and blow up the door.
Holy shit. What have I been missing? I feel like Squidward when he first tried a Krabby Patty.
All the wasted years.
TimeSplitters 2 kicks all the ass. What a damn impressive game this is.
Don't punch her in the pussy.
I'm gonna focus on 2 for this video, but holy shit, I can't recommend the entire series enough. I don't know how the hell I missed this series as a kid, but I'm glad I'm playing them now. There's a ton of content in TimeSplitters 2, but we'll start with the story. These ugly TimeSplitters dudes are out here fucking with time and whatnot and trying to soil humanity's trousers. So you, Sergeant Cortez, need to go in after them and fix that shit. You play as Cortez, but when you travel through time, you end up playing through the level as a character from that setting. It's sort of like a time-traveling Avatar type deal, only nobody's a blue NBA player. Some of these characters are solid as fuck, like Agent Harry Tipper, badass Detective Jake Fenton, and esteemed adventurer Captain Ash.
Crystal, I've got your right to go.
The objective of each level is the same. Locate and retrieve the time crystal and get out alive. Sounds simple, but there's often a flurry of objectives and puzzles that need to be completed in a level to obtain said time crystal. Shit like saving damsels in distress while fighting off hordes of zombies in Notre Dame. Oh shit! Stealthily tailing a hacker and infiltrating an underground base in a Blade Runner looking city. And performing a Wild West prison break, complete with gunpowder and dynamite. And that's just a taste. This game is overflowing with variety and unique shit to do. At the core of it all is some solid first-person shooter action, a legitimate challenge, and tons of different weapons and gizmos to play with. The gunplay is pretty simple, but it feels great, and the abundance of weapons and alternate fire modes ensures it never grows stale. The same can be said for the levels and environments themselves. There's 10 in total, and each one is completely unique. You can go from doing James Bond shit in a supervillain's underground lair in one level, to then exploring and solving puzzles in Aztec ruins in the next. There's monkeys throwing exploding watermelons at your ass.
Get out of here, monkey!
This is scrolling on TikTok levels of variety in a nearly 23-year-old game. In the 7 hours it took me to finish the story, I was never even close to bored. That's a big achievement. Something else that surprised me is the insane detail and interactivity in these levels. As soon as I started playing and realized these filing cabinets could be opened and objects in the environment could be destroyed, I knew I was in for a treat.
Dude, this game fucking rules.
This is the kind of game where if you think you can do it, you probably can. In the Chicago Mafia mission, you have a side objective to drain these whiskey barrels found in a few places in the level. My first instinct was, oh, I should shoot a hole in it to drain it, and sure as shit.
Dude, that's fucking awesome.
But you actually need to shoot a hole low enough in the barrel to drain all the whiskey because there's actually a water level system. There's so much other stuff like this too, I could go on and on. Now, as much as I'll praise the game for its attention to detail and interactivity, this can also be a slight negative, mainly for new players, and here's why. Sometimes it's very unclear how objectives are supposed to be accomplished, which is part of the fun puzzle aspect, but for me, the game did a poor job of explaining all the mechanics and what was even possible. At times, this left me feeling frustrated instead of challenged.
Are you fucking kidding me, man? How could anyone know to do this? How could anyone know to do that?
The prison break bit in the Wild West level is a great example. Your objective states, rescue Ramona from jail. That's all you know. Now how this is done is to first locate the jail in Ramona, find gunpowder stashed inside the jail, find a way around the back of the jail, push this dynamite cart against the back wall, make a fuse with the gunpowder over to these explosive boxes, shoot the boxes to light the fuse, and watch the fireworks. Simple enough. If you know that's what you're supposed to freaking do, at no other point in the game thus far have you been able to push an object around by walking into it like you need to do with the cart. There is no indicator that these boxes are explosive, and if the cart isn't fully pushed up against the wall, it'll explode without blowing open the jail, requiring a restart of the entire level up to that point.
What?
Again, all your objective states is,
Rescue Ramona from jail.
there's all kinds of moments like this throughout the story where you know your objective, but you have to trial and error your way through figuring out how to accomplish it. This is amplified even further with the game being very stingy with checkpoints, like sometimes there's only one for an entire level. I think a little more hand-holding or clues could have gone a long way in making these less frustrating for a brand new player. Luckily for me, I did live stream my playthrough on Twitch, and I had some serious veterans helping me through some of these sections. Shout out TJCLS and X_vacant. You guys are the shit. Also, shout out my fucking Twitch channel. I live stream the games I play for these videos and other stuff. I'm trying to live stream more, so give me a follow and I promise, I'll dynamite you out of jail if you ever need it. Twitch channel link is down in the description. Critiques aside, the story mode is fucking incredible and legitimately a must play, but here's where TimeSplitters 2 whips out its sleeved ace, flops its giant 12-incher down on the table. The story mode is only part of the content offering here. We also have arcade mode, challenge mode, and a fucking map editor. The story alone makes this shit worth playing, but these other modes add so much more content. Arcade mode is a series of multiplayer style games against bots. There's different game modes and modifiers with different requirements to obtain trophies and unlock new characters. There's so many of these. I played for nearly 2 hours and only got through about half of them. There's a trophy system with bronze, silver, gold, and platinum trophies being rewarded depending on performance. So even if you beat these, you can still go back for the next trophy and improve your score. So much fun. Challenge mode is the same idea, only you're completing specific challenges like throwing bricks through windows or defending against hordes of zombies. Again, there's a ton of these offering hours of more content. And to top it all off, we have the map editor to create your own maps and game modes to play on against bots or with friends.
Crazy.
Wrapping up my glazing, this is the only game in this lineup where performance on the PS2 was not a distraction. The game runs smooth as butter and rarely did the frame rate dip. Shit feels great to play, even on the original hardware. With all that said, I feel like I've just barely scratched the surface of what this game has to offer. I seriously can't recommend it enough. Not only is it easily the best game in this lineup, but one of the best first-person shooter games I've ever played. TimeSplitters 2 and really the whole series deserves its own video. Maybe a level ranking video across the entire series. If you want to see something like that, drop a comment. But for now, let's go check out one last game. If you go out on the internet and do some research on which shooter on the PS2 is the absolute best, you will see EA's Black mentioned a lot. To some, it's no question the best the system has to offer, or at the very least, up there with the best. So having never played it, I saved it for last as the hype was immense, and I was expecting something special. Well nerds, Black certainly is special, but best shooter on the PS2? No! Not a bad game by any means, and definitely still belongs in this video, but I can safely say, I think it's overrated. Best thing Black has going for it is some genuinely impressive destruction and physics. Right out the gate, you have to blow a door off its hinges with a shotgun to progress. No big deal if that was a one-off, but no, you're gonna be blowing down doors and walls and all kinds of shit throughout the campaign, and it doesn't end there. Most of the objects and environment pieces you find in the levels can all be destroyed. Honestly, still pretty cool, even by today's standards, and this bitch is nearly 20 years old. Throughout my playthrough, there were multiple moments where I destroyed something and said, "Sick," out loud. Sick. Stuff like this makes the environment itself feel like a playground, and it's fun to explore and see what's possible. Sick. Along with the destructible environments and objects are some genuinely awesome explosions. The devs knew how sick these were, and they give you plenty of explosions throughout the game. At times, it's almost laughable just how much explosive shit there is. Really gives over-the-top action movie vibes in these moments, and that's great. That's really what this game is, an action movie, and it does this really well. When it works, it's a ton of fun and impressive, given the context of when this was released and the hardware it's running on. The guns in the game feel and look mean, and the gunplay is satisfying. There's a decent amount of weapons as well, and they all felt viable and fun to use. Though, the explosive weapons stole the show for obvious dick-erecting reasons. Most of the weapons have alternate fire modes, as well as the occasional suppressor that you can attach and unattach as needed if you're trying to be a sneaky boy. The enemies here are fun to fight for the most part, but there's very little variety. The variety boils down to what weapon they're using and how armored they are. The amount of armor basically determines how much of a bullet sponge the enemy is and how hard they are to kill. By the end of the game, basically every enemy has some level of body armor, and this really pushes the bullet sponge factor a bit too far. At the core of all of this is a story, though I hesitate to even call it that. This is by far the least interesting and most undercooked story out of all these games, and it's not even close. Feels very much like an afterthought, and honestly, it probably was. You could take all these same levels and weave in a completely different story, no problem. There are live action cutscenes though, and those are always neat. Along with the nothing of a story is a shocking lack of content. In Black, you have the campaign, and that's it.
What?
No multiplayer, no bonus modes, nothing, dude. Just the campaign with different difficulty levels. On top of that, this bitch is short. The campaign is 8 levels, and the whole thing only took me about 5 hours on normal difficulty. Black also falls into the Killzone trap of just being boots on the ground the entire time. No other gameplay variety, not even a good old turret section. What's there is solid gameplay and really fun destruction, but you better really love it because that's all you're getting here. And that's where I scratch my head as to why this is such a popular answer as the best first-person shooter on the console. What's there is good, but there needs to be more of it. I mean, at least a multiplayer mode. It seems crazy not to include that with the gunplay being as good as it is. I don't know, Black is like a really nice steak, practically cooked to perfection, but it's only like 6 ounces with no sides, no appetizer, no dessert, not even a cold drink to wash it down. Sorry, Black, but I'm gonna have to hold TimeSplitters' pocket on this one. And there we have it, folks. A quick look at some of the best shooters the PS2 has to offer. If you want to see more content about older games, let me know down in the comments. Also, if you think I'm an absolute dumbass for something I said in this video, or if I was just plain wrong about something, also drop a comment. I'll meet you down there and we'll have a fucking nerd fight. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see y'all next week for another sexiest Fortnite skins tier list. Later, nerds.
Yo, Darkwatch toilet. Ew, Darkwatch poo.